These are very unscripted videos. I may call a washer a nut and a squirrel a screwdriver, so let's jump in. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for clicking on the video. Today I want to show you my ST-A18 Killzone 3 pistol. In this video, I'm going to embarrass myself quite a lot, showing you guys the first version of this gun I ever made up into this fully functional detachable magazine, internal bolt firing version of this gun. So let's get into this. Okay, so let's start off by getting a little embarrassing with this. So bear with me. I made this gun years ago. Like, at this point, I'm 28 years old. I think I made this prototype, the first one ever. Don't judge the C4. That was made for a different video we were having fun with. This was a brick of C4. Made this pistol probably when I was like 15, so a long time ago. So this is the very first prototype. Yeah, hurts a little bit. This is one solid block of paper. It doesn't move. It doesn't do anything. It is literally like one of those blue guns you train with. Nothing moves. The trigger was glued in place and only moves because it's broken now. So technically you can kind of move that thing. But this is what the first prototype looked like. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just compared to the fully functioning one, this one hurts me to show. But I made this when I was very young, and it was actually one of the first things that pushed me towards moving farther up and doing things more mechanical in a way they could come apart, because I was like, you know what, I could probably make this. If I made the outside, I could probably make the internals too. Yeah, so I even put a picture of the gun. Let me show you. Further embarrassment. Made this as a kid. I even made a stand for this dang thing, because at the time this was what felt like the pinnacle of what I had made. And it has this little stand, and you could present this thing. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to show you guys very quickly the similar size of both of these pistols. They're almost one-to-one, which is pretty cool. You can see there's some differences with the trigger guard there and the pistol grip, and most significantly the back mechanical parts, because this was for basically a one-to-one look of the video game, and then this was how it actually had to work, because the video game doesn't work with normal physics that exist. So, which is kind of interesting, segueing into this, the very first prototype I made to get to this. I didn't reference this pistol, so I made this thing significantly too small, and I don't know what I was thinking when I first made this pistol, or to get to this point, because they're so much different. This is like a baby Glock compared to a Glock 17. Like, they're so far off. I really don't know what I was thinking. So, the embarrassment out of the way, let's jump into the actual mechanical workings of this pistol and how I got this thing to the ability. I say ability because I haven't actually tested this thing with a 22, because I like it too much. I don't want to blow this thing up, or I should say a blank 22. I don't want to blow this thing up. It has metal parts in the inside which could withstand the forces of maybe like 5 or 6 blank 22s, but after that I feel like this thing would blow up. Alright, so I realized that I said I didn't test this. I did test this gun. It wasn't a full power 22. I took out the powder like you see here, emptied it out, and then loaded up just to see if the firing pin was fitting right and all that good stuff. And I fired it, and the bolt was able to move back like a 1/16 of an inch. So that made me think, if I fired this with a full power blank 22, that the bolt would eventually break and fly back into my face, which is why I never went any farther forward, and I like the way the gun looks. Back to the video. Okay, so let's go over the internals of this gun. First, we're going to take out the magazine, and we're going to be looking at the trigger group first. You remove this back pin. It is the only pin holding the entire gun together. Pull that out, set that aside. And on the back of this, it is going to move back, or I should say slide back, about a 1/16 of an inch, and then it is going to rotate up, revealing the upper receiver, I'm calling it, because this is an internal bolt gun, so there's like an upper and receiver, kind of like an AR-15. And then I'm going to remove the trigger group. So This trigger group is made kind of after the AR-15 trigger group. It's not exactly the same. There's a lot of differences to it, but I got it to work pretty well. This is the spring that actually allows the trigger to reset back into place. I don't have, and I don't know the name for this either, but it is the part of a trigger group that grabs the hammer as it is being reset while the trigger is pulled, and then when you let go of the trigger, that part lets go, and then the actual hammer can fall back on of the trigger, and then it resets. I don't know the name of that. This doesn't have that right now. It's a part of the project that I stopped on. I just needed to get it to the place I knew it would work, and I did. So I left that kind of the way it is. But let's put that back in. This is the place where it sits. These two, or that one block on that side, I guess I don't have two, but that's what actually holds the trigger group in on the front. It sits underneath and rotates down, and then the upper receiver being held down is what holds the back of the trigger group in. Also forgot to mention that ball bearing is there because the AR-15 trigger is so strong that it rides on the bolt and the bolt locks back. So this was my poor attempt to get it to ride on that, but the rod, if you can see that, the rod that I have going in there was actually mild steel, so the first shot bent the rod, and then I kind of gave up on that part of the project because this was so long ago and I haven't really been back to it. Let's talk about the upper receiver and why I'm calling it an upper receiver. On this pistol, just like the AR-15 has two different parts that are fixed together with an internal bolt system, so does this. Unlike most pistols, which actually have a slide, just like the name would have you think, this does not slide back and forth. Only the internal bolt system is actually moving back and forward. So I think that was actually one of the selling points of this gun in the video game that I actually really enjoyed, because it was so unique. I think there may be a couple guns that are super experimental and super prototypish that we've tried to do in real life, but there's not that many that are actually cool. They're all kind of stupid. So I thought this one was cool from the video game, so I decided to make it. Moving back into the slide, or outside of my weird rant again, we have this recoil spring, which is not strong enough to overcome the strength of the AR-15 spring, so I tried to put in this ball bearing right here, but it had mild steel going through the actual rod holding it in, so as soon as I fired it and tried to test it, it bent this way and no longer was contacting the rail in here, which is actually an Allen wrench, because the Allen wrenches are made out of hardened steel, so I thought that would be the best thing for it, but it was all in vain because the rod in here was mild steel and it didn't work. The firing pin is free floated, as you can see if the camera would focus. Free floated, it moves back and forward like so, and once you hit this, it strikes the edge of the 22 right here. I'll move this forward. The 22 would sit, or 22 blank would sit right here, and it would strike just the end of it. So moving forward from the front of this to the actual bolt face, there's a way to see that. Right here, we have the extractor, and then this is a part I made so the 22 would brace against something, and the extractor wouldn't push the 22, blank 22, I should say. I really should get in the habit of saying blank 22 than 22. But the extractor wouldn't push it off. And the weirdest part about this gun, the part that I was basically sure would cause malfunctions, is what I'm going to make up on the spot and call the barrel shroud 30 round clip hood on the top of this. The reason I had to do this is because the way the magazine loads is such a drastic angle, and I'll show that in a second, that it would hit the top of the barrel and would jam immediately. So I had to make this spring-loaded 30 caliber ghost hood on the top that would be able to take the round hitting it and redirect it into the barrel and then slide forward, letting the actual bolt face interface, that sounds weird, bolt face interface with the back of the blank 22 firing out the front. So that's the miracle of engineering that I had to do, which kind of worked. It kind of worked, and I say that because it still jams, and I haven't found a strong enough spring to actually force the round in. I can do it by hand, and I'll show that later in the video, but that is the upper workings of the upper receiver to this Killzone pistol. So now we'll jump into the magazine. All right, guys, so I'm editing right now and realized I never showed this gun actually chamber and extract and eject a blank 22. So blank 22 up front, unfired. Technically this can fire, everything is live for that, so we're gonna be as safe as possible as we can be. Racking it back, you can see that 22, blank 22 right there, putting it forward, and now I'm going to eject it. So there you go. It actually can eject under the proper conditions. Okay, so let's move on to the magazine, which was by far the most stressful part of this whole entire build, because doing a drum magazine with blank 22s that have rims on the back is terrible. Absolutely freaking terrible. So inside of this, and I'll open it up, is like a revolver cylinder that holds the rounds as you feed them down. So loading it would look like such. Round goes in, grab some 22s, should have had some out already. Push it down, it rotates it sideways. This right here is the feed ramp, which normally on a pistol or a pistol or a rifle, it would be on the barrel. On here, if I could load this the right way, pushing it down, you can see those 3 are in there, and they rotate sideways, which you can see right there. So then remove them real quick, and they move forward. They're under quite a lot of pressure, not really that much, but how you open this up, you unscrew the front cap and you wait all day, and there you go, you bring it off, empty in the front, push this back. This is how it interfaces. This is like one of those large turkey baster syringe things that I found worked really well, and then it's just got a glued on paper on the outside to make it not look stupid. So from the inside of this thing, we have this one rod, which was where I screwed on. This is screwed on this front, which is the part holding on the exterior. And then we've got the revolver style teeth. And what I did on this is had a foam piece on the back and then a piece of paper which has that zero viscosity glue on it, which absorbs into just about anything, and if it is the right material, basically turn it into plastic, which is why I like working with paper and that glue, because it turns the paper basically into a plastic and allows you to make these intricate smaller pieces. I will try to slightly load this up and show you guys what it does on the inside. Press down, it rotates that sideways. Press this down again, rotates that sideways. Moving on to the third round, and I think it's probably going to, I'm pushing down the finger. This is what they look like when they load. I'm holding this down with my finger because they'll all fall out, so I can demonstrate what it looks like while they're in there. And that's what it looks like, and they'll go around and round. I think this holds 10 rounds in it, and that's what it looks like. I can show you guys it. Oh, no I can't. Oh, there you go. Still more reliable than a high point. But that's how the magazine works. The metal feed, or metal, what is it? The feed lips, I think they're called. Those were just through trial and error. And I look back at the engineering I did there, and it kind of makes me cry, because these aren't level, they're not the same. I can tell areas where I just bent things in, but it worked, and I'm not, too mad at what the frick I was doing way back in the day. I mean, this is a random, one of those projects I just kind of threw away and haven't picked up in a long time. So there you go. That's how the magazine fits in. Interfaces through this screw to that hole, and then this round tube fits in, so they interface very well. And then up front there is this brass tube, and that fits in with this brass rod, and that's what keeps the front in place. And then that's the magazine. That's the entire pistol and everything. So here's what it looks like aiming down the sights, see if I can get that front sight focused. That's what it looks like. And for those of you who ever played this game, you'll be reminded by the way you had to run with it basically straight up in the air and then point down. So kind of brings memories back. I missed that video game, but still got this pistol. Put down in the comments if you actually want me to go forward with testing this with a full power 22. The box indicates that I have the 4th most powerful, which I don't know what that means. I haven't taken the time to read the different types of energy that these 22s, the blank 22s, can fire, but I have 4 of 5, so I should probably start with number 1 and move up. But if you guys want to actually see me kind of go back to this project and maybe try to work out the kinks that have plagued this design, like that 30 round caliber super clip hood and the feed ramps, or the feed ramps and feed lips, let me know in the comments, because it would be kind of cool to go back on this one if you guys care to see anything about it. But that's really the gun right there. There's not much to it outside of that. I'll show you guys some close-ups, different parts and how everything functions. This rolls out of the way. It's like a weird system that they did in the video game. This is the only way I could figure they were doing it, which, yeah. But another reason I stopped stopped on the actual firing of this thing, I realized that since this is a blank 22, that one you can actually see, that's where one of the reasons I stopped and didn't want to go farther with the testing of this gun is I realized that if you have one of these 22s sitting inside of here and the bolt is made to move back, well, at a certain power, the powder is going to go forward, the energy is going to go forward, but this bolt one day is going to go back with enough force to detach itself from the fragile paper parts and fly through the air directly at my eye, or wherever I'd be testing this. Because you can test it a couple times and then finally go for the one you're holding in the hand. That could be the 5th one that blows it up. But outside of that, I don't think that's going to happen. But if you guys want to see me test this, I'm totally up for it. Alright guys, thanks for making it this far into the video. Sorry if there's things I didn't cover on this pistol. I'm really scatterbrained when it comes to making these like demonstration videos or what things are like and made of, but I just wanted to show you this, show you guys this, because this is one of the cooler things I made way back in the day. And if you made it this far, I'll give you a little bit of a hint of what I'm making, which it looks like this, and I may be at this point in its construction. You never know. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, do the things that people tell you to do, because I got a lot of other cool stuff coming down the pipe, and it's going to be quite cool. Thank you guys.